The second use is one that we tend to not think of because it's, again, very unlike the classroom. And that is, we can go the other direction. It's not all about presenting to a group. It's about that group doing things and sending it back, either sending it to each other or sending it back to a central source to be aggregated and made available to everyone. That's radically different than what is normally happening in classroom. For example, there's various movements for citizen science. Here's one where the group of people are looking for invasive plants in California parks. And when they find them, they tweet them in or send them in through the mobile phone, and then the Parks Department will go look, see if they need to eradicate that invasive species. The idea being trying to protect native species from stuff that's brought in that doesn't belong there. I've seen another one of high school students going through the mud flats in England, and as they find rocks, they're taking pictures of them. They're maybe writing about it. So using it as a tool that you're then documenting the world around you, you're sharing that with others, radically different. And based on being able to gather data and having many people gather data, we can then do trend tracking. This is a map on epidemics around the world, global diseases, based on individuals saying, well, this is happening here, this is happening here, this becoming aggregated and now being placed on a map. And we can track almost anything, whether it's crude oil prices or it could be personal, it could be your health, right? It could be your blood pressure and weight and so on. This is a really neat application of just-in-time information. I just need to know this now. This baker, when his bread is fresh, comes out of the oven, he tweets. And he has customers in the radius around him that rush over to get hot bread. Half an hour later, it's too late. So it's a great example of just-in-time. Or you want to know what movie's on at your local theater. And that just-in-time information is now also occurring because we're starting to tag the world. We're starting to put labels on things. Everybody should know that this over here is a QR code. It stands for quick response. They've been in Japan probably for the past 10 years. We're now starting to see them on all sorts of things, including buildings. I just worked in Canada on a political campaign. We put QR codes on the candidates' brochures and signs. That was considered very radical. But a year later, everybody's doing it. So this is spreading. But what it's doing is putting the information out there so your mobile phone takes a picture of that and can then have either a website in your mobile phone or more information about what you're looking at. Another form of getting information is augmented reality. And this is the idea that you're going out and you're in reality of the real world. You're not in a virtual reality where you're looking at stuff. And you're getting more information. Okay? So usually you're getting a combination of the world there and the world inside your field of vision in a variety of different ways. So for example, this is an application that would name the peaks in the Alps. So you're standing, as you move around, it would tell you what the various peaks are. Because your phone knows where you are, and it knows actually what direction your camera is facing. So it can tell you what it's looking at. Oh yeah, this is me. There's a theme park in Paris called Futuroscope, and it basically allows you to go through a forest, a real forest, and see fake animals. You're looking through binoculars, and the animals are actually in the binoculars, not in the forest. And they're futuristic animals or fantasy animals. And this was just a demo I tried out to put an animal on my head. This is a Junaio, which is made by Mataio, and it in San Francisco tells you, it knows where you are, it knows what direction the camera's facing, tells you how to get to the nearest BART station, and when the next train is and where it's going. Live. And people are using these devices for their own personal uses. And many of these things are being invented, not by corporations, not by universities, but the users themselves. I was at a Starbucks a couple of days ago, and I noticed a fellow with an iPhone, and what he's doing is he's signing with this hand and mouthing the words. He's signing to his girlfriend on the iPhone, and she's signing back to him. They're sitting there he's having a coffee, and they're just having this conversation. Well, nobody really invented the iPhone so that deaf people could, you know, chat with each other, but they find these uses, and people will find their own uses. Oops, I went through a few here. There we go. Okay, so that's not news for a lot of people, but the tools are becoming very, very good. So you can spend $120 on a Kodak Sport video camera, and it's high definition video, great sound, and it's also waterproof to 10 meters. And some people are using mobile then to start to broadcast their life. It's called lifecasting. There's a couple of things that are happening. One is you get equipment that basically records everything you're doing all the time, and there's hard drives that you can put it on. And there's a book out called Total Recall, where the fellow at Microsoft is suggesting we start that at birth and work our way through life and have a video recording of every single thing we did. And the reason for that is so that we can recall and have memories. But the other concept here is really interesting, is that we talk about surveillance a lot, that these technologies around us allow people in authority to take pictures of us, to track our movements. There's also a concept of surveillance, and you may not have heard of that. Surveillance is coming from up. In other words, it's the users now looking at authority. You're people taking videos of police, or people taking videos of somebody doing something that you shouldn't be doing, or it's basically citizens taking power using their mobile phones. Performance support is an obvious one, and we have ruggedized phones that can be used in construction sites, in first aid guides. And this one really touched me. This is a doctor who was traveling in Africa, comes upon a teenager whose arm had been bitten severely by a lion or some animal like that. It's hanging off, it's infected, and he probably has 2 or 3 days to live before he dies from this infection. The doctor doesn't know how to do it. He's not a surgeon. He's never done an amputation like this before. But he has a friend who is a surgeon in Edinburgh, text messages him, and he text messages back the directions for how to do this operation. So this doctor just follows the instructions, takes the arm off, and the teenager lives. Very dramatic performance support, you'd have to agree. Right? What's interesting about this is it's text-based. I hear a lot about the word cool here. This is cool, that's cool. This is not about cool screen design. This is just text. The engagement comes from the importance of the task, not from how we design the graphics. We need to remember that. But just because we say, oh, that's interactive, boy, that's really neat, we can turn that and do it, it may be also meaningless. It may be just a waste of our time. So we need to start to sort out what's meaningful, and what turns out to be engaging using these phones is not about the design of them, but what we need at a given time. So this is about information. Mobile learning is about information that's just in time, and just as I need it, and just for me. Okay? So this is a great example of that. Here's another unusual use that maybe you haven't seen. A bulletin board that asks the question in the UK, British troops, should they be in Iraq or not? Are they occupiers or liberators? What do you think? And people walking by that bulletin board can actually text their opinion to the bulletin board. And as they do, the bulletin board changes. So a great way to start interacting with public, about public opinion, to start engaging your citizens in debates and thinking about things. But this is called out-of-home applications. This one down here is somebody drawing on a sign with their mobile phone as they walk past, and then it'll be wiped off and somebody else can make a drawing as they go by. So it's starting to interact with the environment. We're starting to make buildings light up based on what people are doing with their mobile phones. Over here, similarly, this is called haptics. And haptics means the sense of force feedback or gestures. The hug shirt, you can give it to your girlfriend or boyfriend, or wife or husband, whatever. And what it does is that you take your mobile phone and dial a number, and when you press a certain set of buttons, the shirt gives the other person a hug. Down here, similarly, is the kiss phone that gives them a kiss. Right? And up here we see that we're starting to develop gestures, and a lot of this stuff will now be interacted by how you move your phone. And it's an all brand new area, but and a lot of it's based on Wii technology, and Wii has just come out with a new device, the Wii U, that 2 or 3 days ago, that extends that, and we'll look at that in a second. Over here is haptic dental surgery. When my dentist actually teaches at the University of Toronto, and he said when he was a student, I said, how did you learn your dentistry? And he said, we had to practice on each other. And so, you know, they give each other needles and stuff. And he said he was laying back, he had a fellow student putting a needle into his mouth, and he felt his shoulder getting wet because he had stuck the needle right into his cheek. Promised to keep you awake. His shoulders wet because he pushed the needle through. This device, developed in the Netherlands, will allow you to have the same feel as going into a person's mouth, as the force feedback has the same kind of feel, computer-based. Now, it's not mobile, but that kind of simulation is coming. And it's going to be mobile in the sense that you'll be able to do it in different ways from different places. Okay? So there's lots of use of this. This is probably one of the far out newer uses of mobile learning. It's haptic.